of the Tourism Commission to order. Could I have a roll call by the secretary?
Yep, Bender,
There.
Ermeling,
Here.
is it Clover?
Cleaver.
Cleaver,
Here.
all right, Cleaver. And then Minell, not here, and Simmons, not here.
Ryan just pulled up.
Wonderful.
Shall we wait or should we move ahead?
Talk slow.
Talk slow.
Talk slow. Well, we'll make sure he's here for the election, that's for sure.
Yes.
Approve the minutes from the previous meeting of April 19th, 2021.
Motion to approve.
The motion, is there a second?
Second.
The second, motion and a second to approve the previous minutes, of the meeting. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carried. Next thing on the agenda is the election of chairperson, vice chairperson, and secretary. Evidently, it's requirement when we have a change in membership.
I guess we'll give a heads up. We have two commission members currently that will likely not be here, Bob and Ryan. So there's not much for options there.
Who are you?
So,
We actually don't have enough people to fill the
I intend on leaving in May or June.
That's right, that's after the election.
So I nominate Bob Bender, chair.
Nomination Bob Bender for chair.
Second.
Motion to close nominations. Or do we want to have vice chair and secretary all in one election?
I think in the past, we've done a motion just for each.
Okay. So can I have a motion to close the nominations for chairperson?
So moved.
Second.
Motion, is there a second?
I seconded you.
Okay. Motion is second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Due to the unanimous and only person as chairperson. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, nope. I guess I'm elected chairperson again. Vice chairperson, nominations. Currently, Barb is the vice chairperson. The nomination,
Move to nominate Barb.
nomination for Barb is vice chairperson. Any other nominations? Any other nominations? Motion to close nominations for chairperson.
So moved.
Motion by Ryan, second by
Second.
seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Again, only one individual as vice chairperson. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Election is complete. Secretary.
Now, does the secretary have to be one of the committee members or can we, Gina? or-
Right, that's a question that I had.
I think it was asked before, I think it says among the members, but then it's kind of delegated to me anyway.
Right, but I
Right.
think there's something about signing or if there's something that needed to be signed, I don't know.
Okay,
I can't remember.
okay.
Well, I'm gonna nominate John.
Get him engaged. I agree. I'll second that.
Okay. Second.
Seeing as Brian.
Any further nominations? A motion to close the nominations.
Second.
Seconded by Ryan. Motion to close nominations Made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Election of secretary. Again, one individual. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Any public comments for people on our Zoom?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairperson.
Yes.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Nick Ockwig, 4097 North Poplar Road in Rosholt, with the Convention and Visitors Bureau and the Sports Authority. An exciting day for us at the Visitors Bureau for a couple of reasons. First of all, the reason why I'm dressed so poorly is that we officially started today and loaded up the entire semi full of the Visitors Bureau. And we are relocating the Visitors Bureau out to the interstate. And we feel that'll be a strategic advantage for us. We'll be over in Rib Mountain. If any long timers are been here, the old Shakey's building will eventually be the new Visitors Bureau. We hope it'll be one of the best Visitors Bureau in all of the state we can all be proud of. That's one reason. Also, before I forget, I want to thank the village of Weston and Dale's Weston Lanes. Last month, we had the red, white, and blue 5K run for the Never Forgotten Honor Flight and the veterans. We raised some great money. It was an awesome day over at Dale's. The weather held out nice, and the course, Mountain Bay and the Eau Claire River was just gorgeous. We moved that over from the Convention and Expo Center in Rothschild. We moved that over here to Weston. I think with all the great comments, we'll hopefully have that for many years to come for the Never Forgotten Honor Flight and the Badger State Games. And then finally, because it is a beautiful, beautiful day, and we know how the general meeting will take 4 or 5 hours per usual, but anyhow, I also we're excited at the Visitors Bureau today because it is the start of hopefully a long tenure for our new executive director. So I'm sure you might have a couple of words for you guys, but I do want to introduce Tim White, who officially started today again as our executive director for the Convention and Visitors Bureau. If you can say a few words.
So may I come up?
Yes,
Chairman?
go ahead, Tim.
All right. Thank you. I'm very grateful for all the work that Weston does to bring in tourists and hopefully ultimately residents to the Weston area, how important that is for all of us. I was talking to John and just how much my wife and I enjoy Weston. My wife works in Weston, and I get a lot of my coffee in Weston, and I go on the Mountain Bay Trail, and I play frisbee golf with disc golf with my son when he comes down at the Weston disc golf course, hoping that it doesn't go into the river. You really made that tough there with the river. So I really am excited about what Weston and the greater Wausau area has to offer. We moved back up here because we got excited about all the things that have been changing and growing, from the arts and the culture, the outdoor activities, the sporting events, the restaurants. It's a great place. And I really thank you for the past support that you've given us at the CVB. My goal and mission with our staff is to reinvent the CVB. My goal is to work together both in creating new ventures for tourism and ultimately to bring more people to this great area. My goal is to be transparent. My goal is to continually communicate with the municipality of Weston. In fact, I would like to request a standing report time, if not every month, maybe every other month, where we can come in and give you a report of what's transpiring in the area and how Weston can benefit. And I would like to request that. Again, looking forward to working with you. I'll be meeting this Thursday, right? So, just excited, glad to be here, and just thank you for your support. Thanks.
Just as a comment, if you're talking about meeting monthly with the tourism, we only meet quarterly.
Okay, then I'll meet quarterly.
Yeah, there you go. You can always show up at the village board meeting.
Yes,
Yeah,
or the
right.
finance.
Are you here?
We're here every month.
You are?
Village board.
As long as you are,
No.
I'll be here.
I'll warn you about the village board meetings.
All right,
Hey,
thank you.
don't scare me.
Thank you very much, Jim.
Thanks.
Any additional discussion from the public? Okay. We move on to September budget status report.
The packet, you'll have a budget status report. To date, we've collected close to $180,000. It's just our second quarter. Yeah, so the first 2 quarters of the year, we collected close to 180,000. We spent 69,000 on the wayfinding signs, which was less than we
That's
anticipated.
Can you speak up or use the mic? You're
Sure.
very, very faint.
Sorry. So, today we spent $112,000, which includes 69,000 or close to 70 for the wayfinding signs. We have a fund balance of 173,000 at year end. That will be after we set up a payable to make a payment for our tourism, whether we join the CVB or have some other entity that we would be making a payment.
Any other questions? Okay, with that, could I have a motion to acknowledge the budget report?
Motion.
Motion by Steve, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ryan. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. Next we have, quarter 2 report from the CVB. Anything at this point?
So Jody forwarded over the reports, I believe in the end of July. So the amount that's sitting in the Weston account with the CVB, which is still carryover from prior years, is $109,816. This year they gave out $40,500 in grants, which were all ran through, I think via email. Some of them may have been in person. The rugby grant ended up coming back, so that ended up coming out, and then 10,000 went to the Wasamung Festival. So then all the other grants, I think, were given earlier this year. I think those might have been approved in April.
So I thought we talked
I
about.
think we talked about them, yeah.
Yeah.
And we were, at that time, I think we also were talking a question about the rugby thing, which that
Yeah.
has since taken care of itself.
Yep.
Okay. With that, do we have a motion to acknowledge the report?
Move to acknowledge the room tax, or the CVP report.
Motion by Ryan, just a second.
Second.
Second by Steve. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried.
Just to clarify quick, I heard 2 seconds. Was it Cleaver or Ermeling?
Cleaver.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, the next one is the tourism contract and Weston, this one.
So in your packet, you have 2 versions. One of the things that we were watching very closely was the contract that the city of Wausau did with the CVB. After that was approved by the city council, we took a look at it and we kind of followed what they did. And then we did want to present a second one. So the Village of Weston, we don't have a really involved tourism commission. That's something we could change if we want, but if we want to continue operating like we have, the contract the city of Wausau had didn't fit well with our current situation. So that's why you have two versions in there. We liked the wording in the rest of the contract. It required a lot of communication between the governments and the CVB and a lot of, like the reporting of the minutes and just the open discussions. I mean, it was all in there, which we had requested from the beginning. So the main things that you're gonna see is in a certain section, do you know what section that is?
Yeah.
Room tax revenue 4, B and C.
Yes, room tax revenue, number 4, B and C. We changed the wording to operate very similar to the way we operate now. What we do is we give the 70% to the CVB, with the 25% being village only again. With the CVB requests to communicate to whether it's the village administrator, village president, and the tourism chair of where they would like to donate or give grants out. So that's where the big difference is between the two contracts.
It still could come to the full commission board and give, like they did last year, where they brought the things. I thought that was a good way to handle it.
It was good. One of the things we had problem with that setup is we have quarterly. So unless we want to change it, like if CVB has a grant they need to give up next week, we have to be ready to go and have a meeting. So that's something that we could change in the contract if we want it to come to our tourism commission, but that just would require us to be more flexible.
So the way our ordinance municipal code is set up, the tourism commission is given this responsibility for whatever monies we might want to ask them to distribute or to approve to go to certain events. And I guess the question on these contract, the two options in the contract is whether we want to, I guess, take any of that decision-making away or kind of leave it like it has been. I guess another way of stating this. And if we give all of the responsibility for determining where things are spent to the CVP, I guess maybe in the end, there isn't really a whole lot of
Say what?
reason for continuing the tourism commission here. So maybe kind of a fundamental question here as to how we want to go forward.
Well, question I have is, do they make these requests and a week or two later it's granted? I thought there was a timeline that you had to make these requests, and it used to be that you had to.
That was when we were doing it. So when
Okay.
Daniel was here, he had a grant application that required so much lead time and a lot of staff time went into analyzing that application and determining how to read it. So since we've given it to the CVB, that we have not requested a certain lead time.
Well, like I said, if the tourist commission isn't going to be approving or disapproving or being able to discuss where these grants are going, I don't see what the purpose is to have one. I mean, I don't know.
And is there a requirement that there be a commission? I guess that's the question, the other part.
The only requirement would be that 70% of any of the room tax collections, if we have this, if we're collecting this fee, goes to a tourism entity.
Right.
And I guess, options could be to have the CVB be one of those, or as our attorney pointed out, maybe we can give part to the Mosby Chamber, but I don't know that that's really what we want to do. I think we've gotten this contract kind of negotiated through Wausau, and I know that was kind of the game plan was to see how their contract got worded. Now, they are retaining part for their own discretion as far as where they want room tax monies to be spent. I guess in general, they're just supposed to be spent on events that create room stays in the area, promote tourism. So I don't know So we have a, John, you represent the hotel industry here.
Yeah,
What would be your expectation on this whole thing?
well, when I've been in the hotel industry in this area for about 5 years now, both in the Rothschild area and the Weston area been in Weston about the last 2.5 years. I would say it'd be nice to, for us to have a say on where the money is going. But also too, that I think, the CVB, the majority of the events that they're put on, do bring in, the room nights. It would be nice to see, like I said, a little bit more, because, in Weston, when it comes to the hotel industry, we're usually probably the third tier when it comes to where we're getting room nights from. Wausau fills up first usually because that's the majority of the events, then usually Rothschild and then Weston. So, we are usually the third tier just because what kind of events can we also hold to in the Weston area that we can scale to bring in the room nights to the area. But recently, like the Monk Festival, that was a huge moneymaker for everybody because it sold out the whole area. So more events that we had coming and all that, same with some of the sports tournaments and everything that they are part of the Sports Authority and keeping that going. Always been a big success, but trying to keep on maybe with the downtime and get everything else going more and more.
My concern would be too, if that the hotel, they won't have a say. I mean, I know there used to be a lot of questions about some of the programs and whether or not they were, really qualified to have a grant or whatever for, as far as room tax. So I don't know, I guess I just have a little concern that one person is approving grants.
Okay,
so if we were to do like our current layout where we have the 45% for like CVB general use and then the 25% Weston account, we have in here that the CVB will receive and process all Weston room tax requests and will use their discretion to approve or deny any requests. The CVB will be required to get permission from either the village administrator, village president, or tourism commission chair before any funds are dispersed. So there is kind of like a safety in there, and then ideally at the quarterly meeting, you could review the grant requests and say like, okay, we're okay with this. And then if there's feedback, you could provide that and say, okay, give us an update, how did this event go, what did it do? And maybe use that to further guide how you want the CVB to spend the funds.
Mr. Chairman?
Just a
That's
thought.
version 2, by the way.
okay.
Did I say one?
Back, Ms. Maloney?
No.
Oh, I
just
just
wanna
didn't clarify.
It's in version
Yes, that is version 2.
So what did Wausau adopt? Did Wausau adopt the 30 and then the 39?
37 and a half. I think.
37.
And then the other portions would actually stay here. This is fantastic that we got a new executive here. I'm hugely positive that this is all gonna go great, but I don't wanna revisit the last 2 years. And I think that Weston portion should stay with Weston, and then we could release it. And I do like the thought of, it was Barb and I think Keith a little bit, but if we would, take the majority there, just to, the request goes to the CVB, to Nick, Jody, whoever, and now Tim. And then it would come back and just, so that we're all together on that. I think it should stay here. Like Wausau, we kind of thought that we would dovetail this. And,
Well, maybe you need to convene the tourism commission more often when we request from them too.
yeah, and maybe so. Jessica, Jenna, is that okay? If
We
that
don't
portion-
have a lot of staff time to be reviewing the grants, so that's something.
You don't have to review it,
We,
but to hold the money here versus pay all the money out as we do that.
So your thought would be to run the grants through the CVB
Yes.
and have them administer that, and then they can pay their costs through the 37% that's being given.
Yep.
And then we would disperse the funds.
Did we determine if that's 6%, or did we determine what that would be?
I think the percentages are up to us. We could say 70% has to go to
Tourism.
tourism, so we could say they can have
I see.
40%,
Okay.
45 like we did before, and make the percentage whatever we feel is correct, or whatever we're comfortable
Well,
with.
throughout this whole thing, there's been some positives. We got to know Nick more, and we certainly have given Jody a voice, because she has a voice now, and she's talking to Yee's group now, and with quite a bit of confidence on what's happening or what has happened and what shouldn't happen in the future. So those are all good things that have happened. I'll back down.
Mr. Chairman, yeah, I just wanted to add, thank you, Mark, too. So we talk about the events and all, that's about tourism, but something that had been lacking over the years, and I know Tim, and we've talked about it just in a short time, is that it's that marketing, that regional marketing and that statewide marketing. It's not all events. Those are great and those will always be a part of it, but it's also getting the word out there and talking about the greater Wausau area, down in the Madison area, in Green Bay. That's something we've been lacking. So part of that budget money would go towards general marketing statewide as well. It's not all grants, Barb, and just to give you an example and appreciate us even having this discussion is that, for example, I just got a phone call 3 weeks ago from Appleton. I've been working with this gentleman for Ultimate Frisbee. He called up and said, Nick, I need to bring an Ultimate Frisbee tournament over to the greater Wausau area. Can you help me out? Lo and behold, this past weekend, 200, Ultimate Frisbee players came to the area. And that was something, again, just to show you, Barb, how it sometimes just happens real quick. They'll call. But I totally agree that even if a grant like that happened and he applied, we can even talk about it after the fact and still talk about what would be dispersed. That's happened in the past as well. Sometimes the just time frame doesn't work out. But the transparency, like Tim said, it's something we've been saying. We want that for sure, transparency and the numbers and just keeping that open communication. So I just appreciate, and I'll let Tim, if he wants to add anything, just us getting back to the table, talking about working with you guys again, because there's some great things happening in Weston, always was, but with Dale's Weston Lanes and some of that, but just for us even to promote out there about the 90 miles, that's what the Department of Tourism states is anything outside 90 miles is that destination marketing. And that won't be day trippers. They'll come in and stay at hotels and stuff like that. We really want to focus on that destination marketing throughout the whole state, maybe even multi-state levels. Multi-state, Granite Peak does a great job. They spend millions of dollars down in the Chicagoland area. They don't spend it anywhere else. It all goes to Chicago and brings those Illinois people up. Nothing to say we can't, visit Wausau, .com, promote the website down in Chicagoland or Minneapolis or whatever. So I think with Tim's expertise, and I'm pretty excited about him coming on board, that we can have a greater vision moving forward and a better use, honestly, of the room tax dollars than we've had.
Okay, with that, Tim?
I'll hurry. Thank you for letting me speak. So a couple things, just like Nick said. So my experience and background is in marketing, like hardcore worldwide marketing. Did you ever watch the March Madness tournament for college basketball, NCAA? Did you ever watch the song that they play at the end when the champions watch the one shining moment thing? That's the stuff that I've done over the last 10 years. A lot of sports marketing, a lot of other marketing as well. Not just the tri-state area is our market, but outside. Wausau, greater Wausau has the opportunities to, look, I lived in Chicago for 20 years, right? It's cheap up here compared to Chicago. That's really, really attractive. That I can have quality culture, arts, events, and be up here, and spend my money up here. We're the gateway to the north, they say, but they don't have to keep going, And in this day and age, shorter travel times is really attractive to people. So I consider a large swath of the Midwest to be our market, and worldwide too, obviously with the Mung Festival and other festivals. And then lastly, it's all about communication. So Barb, you were talking about the hoteliers, John, you're a part of that. My goal is to have quarterly talks with the hotel owners and managers. I want to find out I want to get input from all the different leaders in the greater Wausau area. We can't do this by just coming up with some idea on our own. We need to work together with everybody. That's the only way that we're going to make this stronger and that we're going to attract more people here. So, thanks.
Can I, Bob? with such a short time frame. I guess I didn't realize that we didn't have a, requirement that it had to be in by a certain time or whatever. I guess if, as long as the president or, the administrator or the chair, is notified that this is happening, but that it's brought to our quarterly meeting. So we can discuss, and if we have an issue with one of the grants, even if it's paid for already, that we could bring it up and it wouldn't happen again, I guess, is kind of the,
Right.
cause I just to not, I just think we'd be shirking our duty. This is what this tourism commission is about, is to kind of keep an eye on what's going on. And so I guess I wouldn't have a problem. I prefer the second version. I think it reflects what we do now, and I think what we're doing now is good.
So, it looks to be, a general consensus, at least I'm seeing, is that we want to maintain our ability to control a portion of the funds, as well as giving the CVB their operations as well as promotional portion at that point. With the ability to, with the basic requirement that they'll come back and reporting to us on a quarterly basis, so we have an ability to understand what's going on as far as what they're doing, as well as them notifying either the administrator or the village chairperson of what they're planning on doing, so that there isn't, I guess I would say, a surprise for us in general. So with that, do we have a motion to basically adopt the version 2 of the agreement?
Yes, I make the motion to recommend that the Board of Trustees approve the CVB contract version 2.
Okay, motion is there?
And with the stipulations that the commission still is kept abreast of what's going on.
Right. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
The second to the motion. Any other further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. So that will be moved on to the village board for their approval then. Okay, the next thing we have is the 2022 room tax fund budget. It has to be
So the 2022 budget is in there. We proceeded assuming that we were going to adopt the 70% to the tourism entity and then the 30% retained. So that's in the budget. The revenues, we have an increase of 44,000 in there. Based on how they've been coming in, they're recovering nicely after 2020. They're still not like super high, but I think that that's still a conservative estimate with what is in there. Just make it bigger. You can see that. Other than that, and there's not much in there for changes, just 70% to CVB and then a slight increase in revenue. Does anyone have questions?
And we have a motion to approve the 22 room tax budget as presented.
Move to approve the 2022 room tax fund budget as presented.
Motion by Ryan, is there a second?
Second.
Second by John. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. So with that, any further, nothing else at this point. Next regular scheduled meeting is to be determined, I'm assuming by
So we were doing quarterly.
Right.
Do we want to go back to that schedule? I think that would put the next meeting in January, maybe? I can send out like a meeting request.
Okay.
We do January because then we have the fourth, well,
You probably
more
won't have the
information,
fourth.
we don't get fourth quarter yet.
Maybe
but-
At
it's
that point, but
February.
you
It
would
might
have
be-
the third quarter as well as Tim may have some additional information at that point for us.
If
So,
we need something sooner, if it's relevant to have a meeting
Right.
sooner, we can do that.
Right.
We're flexible.
so, okay, any other further topics for the meeting? Other than CVB coming in, I guess is what primarily. Any remarks from the staff regarding this? Any from the commission membership? No further announcements. Could I have a motion for adjournment?
So move.
Or move,
Second.
second by Ryan. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carried. Commission is now adjourned.